Hello. I thought maybe I wasn't going to do another one of these. I thought I'd be a conscientious objector. I started off sceptical, and then within a few days I'd actually become completely rebellious. As you'll notice, the last couple of days I wasn't advocating for veteran charity at all. I was advocating for calm. One of the things I quite like about saying the phrase "I'm advocating for calm" is calm itself is one of those phrases that's one of those words. It's not onomatopoeic, because an onomatopoeic word is a word that sounds like what it means. Calm's one of those words that feels like what it means. It's not the only one. This is a phenomenon. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but there's a lot of words that begin with the letters SN about the nose. For example, sneeze, snivel, snout, snicker, snigger. It's kind of laughing through the nose, isn't it? And I don't know if you noticed this, but when you say words beginning with sn, you go snivel, snicker. It kind of makes your nose twitch. Even snow. So it's almost like saying the word makes you think about your nose. I don't know what the word is for that. I'd love to know actually if anyone knows what the word is for words that feel like what they mean, tell me. Obviously it's not onomatopoeia, because onomatopoeia is words that sound like what they mean. And it's a nice piece of branding that Calm have there. They call themselves Calm, whereas most advocacy programs are all about panic, aren't they? All about getting everyone to panic. And they're not. They're saying calm, we're calm. And the actual acronym, when you break it down, is Campaign Against Living Miserably. So even though it's a suicide prevention campaign, the actual name doesn't mention suicide at all. It says it's against living miserably, which implies it's about enjoying life. This is a campaign for making life enjoyable. So the name of the campaign is about the solution rather than the problem, which is quite nice. But let's talk about the journey so far, and I'll tell you where I am and how I've arrived to the point where I got to saying I'm not going to do any more of this. So on day one I read an article that was saying what good does this do? What benefit is it to anyone? And I took that on board as valid criticism, and I said, well, yeah, it doesn't really, does it? I mean, it doesn't inform people about anything. Then on the second day, I think it was the second day, I started querying the statistic itself. Or at least the way it's repeated. Okay, because it's been repeated as, I mean, it's certainly true that in 2010 22 veterans a day were committing suicide. That's true. But linking that, and there is certainly a link to post-traumatic stress disorder and suicide, but saying that all 22 of those were linked to post-traumatic stress disorder is conjecture at best. So that's not a fact. And yet it's been reiterated as a fact. And it may even be that not all those suicides are connected to the military. And as much as I'd want to talk about how damaging the military is to men's mental health, I'm not going to dispute that. In fact, that's going to be very much the point I'm going to be making, is the military is damaging to the men's mental health. I don't want to draw a link between those suicides and the military, because the number of civilian suicides was quite high as well. I don't have the statistics on me straight offhand. I mentioned them another day. I think it was 115 suicides a day. This is across the states. So that's another question is, well, I'm not American, so why am I quoting this statistic? Why have we got British people quoting this statistic that's not even about our culture, it's about the American culture? Not that there wasn't suicides in Britain, of course there were. But why are we reciting a statistic that isn't about our culture, isn't about the current year, it's about 2010, and then making a link that we don't know is true? In fact, there's a very strong suggestion that it isn't, because of that 20 of them, at least 20 of them were over 50. So they hadn't recently seen combat. Alright, where did I go from there? Oh yeah, and then I began to become very suspicious of the company that started the campaign, which was 22 Kill. Other veteran charities since got on the bandwagon, but the originator is 22 Kill. And when you look at 22 Kill's website, 22 Kill is a non-profit company that sells these things called honor rings. And I thought, are they just making a profit out of this? Is this not really all about charity? Is it actually about making money? And there was also something about them that glorifies the military, which I found really perplexing. Concerning when I thought, well, the military are part of the problem, surely. The military are the problem. Why would you want to fetishize it? So I began to feel uncomfortable at them. And then I became concerned that the whole thing was really a piece of recruitment puff for the military, and that seems quite counterintuitive. I can't remember, it was day 4, was it? Looking at that. Anyway, I thought that was probably quite a good one, but that was quite a good video I did, that one. The last one I did was rubbish as well. That was the other thing, the quality had dropped. I started filming another one, which was kind of about how there's a sort of bait and switch when it comes to how the military recruit. That it kind of recruits on the idea of it being glamorous, and when the bait and switch is, of course, it's not a glamorous job at all. It's a job that's quite grueling, quite unpleasant, and very dangerous. And a job that you would stay in out of economic necessity. You might be attracted to it by the glamour, but once you're in it, you'd realise it wasn't that glamorous, and then you'd only stay in it by economic necessity. That was the video I started making, and then I didn't really get to finish it, because while I was in the middle of making it, I discovered an article on the occupations most associated with suicide, and the military wasn't even in the top. Well, it was the top 13 occupations associated with suicide, and the military wasn't in the top 13, which made me wonder why we were making the military a special case. And then I began to think about the whole campaign itself and how it kind of operates rather like a religion and a cult, using this cognitive dissonance there. If I start telling you that statistic, that you are ritualizing when you do press-ups, and when I say you're ritualizing, you're going for a ritual. You're doing it 22 times, remember? 22 times over and over again you're doing that, and you're going, I'm doing this because, in memory of this statistic, which I'm now going to misrepresent. If you have somebody telling you that statistic's not true, then they're going to make you look like a fool. So you're going to be motivated to disbelieve them. Another reason you're motivated to disbelieve them is the story about the statistic is a really tragic one. It's horrific. It's panic raising. I've always thought about this um, if you were in a panic, say you had a phobia of spiders, and you were afraid of spiders, and you came into the library, and let's be honest, some spiders will kill you. It's black widows, trapdoor spiders and stuff, they'll kill you. But you've got an irrational fear of spiders, so you're afraid of all spiders. Okay. You walk into a library, and it's creepy crawly day in the library, creepy crawly education day, and there's a tarantula handler, and he's handling tarantulas, and he's letting all the kids touch the tarantula, and saying, look, you can pet him if you like. He's quite furry, isn't he? He's Australian. He's bound to be Australian. They always are. Anyone handling wild animals is always Australian for some reason. And you've already got a panicky phobia about spiders. So as soon as you realise there's a spider in the library, you are feeling really on edge, really, really on edge. And then you go and hide behind a bookcase. And when you're behind the bookcase is somebody else, and they're terrified of spiders too. And they go, oh my God, I just can't go out there. There's a spider out there. I can't go out there. And they go, I know. Do you know how many spiders kill everyone? How many spiders kill people every day? And you know, how many is it? And they hand you pamphlets, really scary statistics about how deadly spiders are. That person's going to feel like an ally, right? Because they're the ones going, hey, you're not crazy to be terrified of that spider. Whereas that guy out there that's got a tarantula and letting the kids touch the tarantula, hey, I'm so tarantula. He's cheeky little fella, isn't he? Oh, there he goes. They're going to think he's bloody Satan. And what's he doing? How can he be so crazy? How can he be so flippant? He's a frickin' spider! Right, he would seem like the bad guy. And the person there says, because he's advocating the calm. Whereas the person advocating for panic would seem like they're really good because they're on your side. They feel the panic you feel. When Robin Williams committed suicide, I said, how about we stop talking about the day he committed suicide, talk about the days he didn't? Because that wasn't the first day he had suicidal thoughts. That wouldn't mean the first day he had suicidal thoughts. He would have gone through lots of days with suicidal thoughts. And that's the thing is, 22 a day does seem an awful lot, and 117 a day seem an awful lot. But America's a big place. I mean, it's got populations of millions. I mean, the vast majority, vast majority aren't committing suicide. And even the numbers of people that have suicidal thoughts, the vast majority of those don't commit suicide. For example, go to your precinct, local precinct or local shopping centre. Look at all the people shopping, doing the daily routines. Count 10 of them off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you know what? All 10 of those just counted off. They haven't committed suicide ever. Do you know why? They're shopping. If they had, they wouldn't be shopping now, would they? Think about it. In fact, all of them, all the people you're seeing walking around there, they haven't committed suicide. However many people are doing it, it's not massive. And you might think this seems really heartless and callous and flippant even to say this, but there's a good reason to say it. I was reading an article and it was saying the chances of committing suicide are increased if you believe that it's commonplace to do so. Like there's a certain conformity there. I don't even say this is fear of missing out, because in fact, in many ways, it's fear of missing out that keeps you alive, isn't it? Fear of missing out is sort of what hope is, isn't it? Tomorrow could get better. And when I say what suicidal thoughts are, there's a difference between suicidal thoughts and the imp of the perverse. Both of these are very common experiences, but don't get them confused. The imp of the perverse is similar to vertigo. Or rather, vertigo is a subset of the imp of the perverse. The imp of the perverse is where you suddenly imagine yourself doing something colossally stupid, like jumping off the platform of the tube station, or you on the top of a cliff and you suddenly imagine stepping out into thin air and imagining what that would be like to tumble down, and you also things go, oh my god, what the hell am I thinking? What why would that? Oh, well, that's not suicidal thoughts. Do you know what that is? That's actually your inhibitions excessivized. It's because it's like somebody's just grabbed you and gone, don't jump! And by grabbing you, go, don't jump! They actually make you go, Jesus Christ, I wasn't even thinking of jumping. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You shook me right up. I'm really, now. So that's the imp of the reverse. I used to get it around electrical equipment, like lathes and things, and I suddenly think of what it would be like to stick my hand in the lathe and I'd just go, whoa, and back away. But that's nothing to do with thoughts of harming yourself. It's the exact opposite. It's the inhibition against harming yourself, being overreacting. It's like the inhibition's just tried too hard. Suicidal thoughts, on the other hand, are actually thinking, I can't live with this pain, I don't think it'll go away, I can't see any hope of things improving, I'd want to be better off if I was dead. I'd be better off if I was dead. Being dead would solve all my problems. And that's not that uncommon either. So the imp of the perverse isn't that uncommon, but it's not suicidal thoughts. Well, let's not get us confused. Suicidal thoughts aren't that uncommon, particularly amongst teenagers. I'm going to get back to that because that's quite crucial when I get to that. And compared to both these things, actual suicide is really rare. Compared to thoughts of suicide, which is quite common, actual suicide is quite rare. That means the majority of people don't commit suicide. And that's worth bearing in mind. I haven't actually prepared a script here, so I'm kind of had a lot of thoughts about what I was going to say, but they're kind of in my head. I hope I can form some sort of narrative out of this, but I was thinking about the lyrics to the Band-Aid, because Band-Aid was another advocacy thing. Band-Aid was a charity, so they wanted to get your money. So almost every lyric in Do They Know It's Christmas Time is false, including Do They Know It's Christmas Time? Yes, they do. Christianity is quite a widespread religion in Africa. Most people in Africa know it's Christmas time. At Christmas time, they know it's Christmas time. It's Christmas is celebrated in Africa. He says there won't be snow in Africa. Yes, there is. Yeah, Kilimanjaro's got snow on it, so there is snow in Africa. No rain nor river flows. Look, the Nile and the Congo are two of the longest rivers in the world. They're both in Africa. Another one is, he says, there's a world outside your window and it's a world of dread and fear. No, that's not the world outside your window. That's the world on your TV. There's a world on your TV that's full of dread and fear, but the world outside your window isn't full of dread and fear. In fact, the world you go out and walk around in isn't full of dread and fear. The reason the world on the TV is full of dread and fear is because that's reportable, that's newsworthy. You don't report on somebody went out, they had a splendid time, they met some friends, they had a few drinks, it was a laugh. There's anything cheerful is not newsworthy. Anything reassuring is not newsworthy. Any cause celebre, I don't know how to pronounce that, is not newsworthy. But an atrocity is newsworthy. So from the whole world, a news service is dragging all the worst stories from the entire world and then plonking them on your TV set, which gives the impression that the world is a dangerous and fearful place, and only a lunatic would go out in it. So if you watch the TV all the time, you overestimate how dangerous the world is. But if you actually spend time going out, you're more aware of how safe the world is, how it's not dangerous. In fact, they find that people that watch TV people watch the news overestimate how dangerous the world is, and people that go out underestimate how dangerous the world is. Because of this effect, I suppose. It'll be the other way around, cause and effect. Obviously, if you thought the world was a dangerous place, you wouldn't go out. And if you thought the world was a safe place, you would go out. So, I don't know. But then when cause and effect and can be swapped around, that probably means there's a vicious circle there. The more dangerous you think the world is, the less likely you to go out, the more reliant you are on TV news to tell you what the world's like, the more dangerous you think the world is, the more less likely you are to go out, and so on and so on and so on, and round and round and round. So there's this thing about, in a way, this whole project is a bit like a religion, right? Because the idea, and what I haven't been doing, you'll notice, is every time you do 22 push-ups, you're supposed to nominate somebody, right, to do the push-ups as well. And so the idea is, by the time you've done your 22 days doing 22 push-ups, you've nominated 22 people. And okay, let's say only 1 in 5 do them. That's still 4 or 5 people that you've nominated. So if every person that does takes on the challenge nominates 4 or 5 people, you can see how quickly that grows. I mean, that's why it's viral. And because it's like missionary work, you spread, it spreads and spreads and spreads. It's bigger and bigger and bigger. And everyone's repeating the same statistic, which is misleading. And misleading and frightening, right? And because it's frightening, as I say, people don't want to be told it's not true. And secondly, because they've ritualized it, and ritualized it publicly, they don't want to be told it's not true, because that makes them look like fools. No one wants to be told they're a fool. That creates cognitive dissonance. They'd rather believe it than not. I'll give you an example of cognitive dissonance. I used to be a mental health nurse. I trained as a mental health nurse. I dropped out. It wasn't for me. But I was in the training. And people are really surprised about this, actually, because they think this was something that ended in the dark ages. But we studied ECT. ECT is electroconvulsive therapy. You may be familiar of it from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or possibly, if you're well read, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, because Robert M. Persig had ECT and then started an entire new life where he couldn't remember his former life. He'd been a philosophy professor, had suffered a major depression, had ECT, then he couldn't remember anything about being a professor. In One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, he comes back from ECT almost like a zombie, doesn't he? And then the American Indian suffocates him with a pillow because he can't face the fact that the guy's not what he used to be. Robert M. Persig's version of events is probably more realistic. ECT does damage the memory, and in some ways that's possibly how it works, because somebody might be depressed because they've got a problem they're working on in their head and they can't see a solution, and ECT just took the problem away. Bang, it's gone. Sorry, can't remember what it is. Can't remember what was making him depressed. Not depressed anymore. I can't remember what. Anything. And I befriended a guy with bipolar or something on one of the wards, and then when he came back from ECT, he couldn't remember who I was. The thing is, all the nurses that practiced it, that were involved in the practicing of it, and the practicing of it, you're strapped down and you're given a you're fully thinking about who going. It's not like that. It's not like that. What they do is they give you an injection that completely paralyzes you. Paralyzes you so much that you can't breathe. So you can't really use your lungs anymore. So whilst you're paralyzed. So whilst you're paralyzed, you're given oxygen through a mouth thing. So it's like you're given what's it called? CPR. The thing where you blow into somebody's mouth, except something electronics is doing it constantly throughout the process. Because if the nerve system was working at all, that electroconvulsive thing, you could break a bone, because the whole body would tense up, and bones could get broken. So that's why they have to paralyze the entire person that's paralyzed, and they do the electric shock across the temporal lobes. Yeah, all the nurses that practice that, they think it's marvellous. They will swear by it. They'll go, it saved lives. And I was a little bit sceptical about it, as you can tell. I get sceptical about everything. I was going, I'm not sure. Okay, so you've cured the depression. Okay, you may have saved them from killing themselves, maybe. But if you've wiped out their memories, you've kind of wiped out like the important parts of who they are. And I was very sceptical about it. And the only ally I really had was the psychologist. There was this visiting psychologist who went around and I've got nothing to work with. I get so far in the therapy, and then I talk to them, and they can't even remember the last time we had a session. I can't get them to talk about their problems. They don't remember what their problems are. I've got nothing to work with. He was against it, and I was against it. The nurses weren't against it. Do you know why the nurses weren't against it? Because they did it. They did it. How would they live with themselves? If they even entertain the thought of being sceptical about the effectiveness of that, then how would they live with themselves? They're part of it, and that's cognitive dissonance. Yeah, so if I try and tell you that 22 push-ups is actually not a positive thing. So the big question was, who is it benefiting? And as I say, I began to think that it was a recruitment campaign. I was advocating for Calm because the reason it's a recruitment campaign is it incentivizes joining the military. And as I say, that seems counterintuitive. I did kind of explain this more in depth on day 4, I think, but I'm going to keep it simple now. I will perhaps explain a different part of it. If you imply that the military are more deserving of compassion, or veterans are more deserving of compassion than civilians, and there are teenage boys that feel starved of compassion, that feel not understood, that feel, there are teenagers that harm themselves because they're desperate for attention. there are things that are attention-seeking behaviours, and I know we're not supposed to say about attention-seeking behaviours, but there are mental illnesses that are attention-seeking. And one of the things that one of the lecturers used to say said, I don't like the phrase attention-seeking, because people are attention-seeking because they're attention-needing. If they're performing negative behaviours in order to get attention, yes, that is attention-seeking behaviour. But they are attention-seeking because they needed attention. And the prevention would have been for them to get more attention about performing the attention-seeking behaviours before they perform the attention-seeking behaviours. I know it's a bit, it makes it quite difficult to deal with these people, but because what you don't want to do is reward an attention-seeking behaviour. If it's a negative behaviour, like harming yourself, you don't want to suddenly give somebody attention because they harm themselves, because then you'd be reinforcing the harming of themselves. But at the same time, you really want to prevent them harming themselves by giving them attention before they harm themselves. Of course, we can't know it's going to happen. It's a bloody nightmare, I tell you. Yeah, teenagers are quite attention needing. Teenagers already have suicidal thoughts. Suicidal thoughts are quite common amongst teenagers. If you put out that message virally put out the message that you know who deserves our compassion and who deserves our attention, who deserves help, veterans, they do, then you're actually incentivizing joining the military. So that was the reason I was advocating for calm, because it wasn't singling out the veterans as a special case, and therefore it wasn't incentivizing the military. The reason I've decided to do this again is because I found something else. Now, I'm British. I think most people that are actually still watching are. And did you know we're still in the EU? Because you could be forgiven for thinking that we'd left the EU, because seems every other day there's an article, and it's even an article by somebody who voted Remain, that's talking about how the pound's fallen and how everything's gone tits up, and we told you so, told you shouldn't have exited, shouldn't have left the EU. Or it's a Brexiter crowing about how it didn't happen, the economy was booming, isn't it wonderful, look, you see, leaving Europe was the best thing I've ever done. What neither of these article writers seem to have noticed is we haven't left the EU. Whatever you're seeing now in the economy is just a placebo effect at best, or it's you attributing something that's got nothing to do with us leaving the EU to us leaving the EU. Crazy people. It's like superstitious magic. It's like I've got a rock here, and it keeps bears away. It's magic. It's a bear repelling rock, and they go, does it work? Well, can you see any bears around? So that sort of thing. We haven't left the EU, so whatever you're seeing happening in the economy is not the result of us leaving the EU. It hasn't happened. The only reason I bring that up is because whilst we're in the EU, that means we're the only country in the EU that recruits the military at the age of 16. That's quite worrying, isn't it? All the other countries in Europe recruit at 18, and even America recruit at 17, and I do think generally we're better than America in terms of human rights. I mean, they've still got the death penalty. We got rid of that years ago. Their prison system is dire need of reform, and is run by private companies. In terms of human rights generally, and we got rid of slavery before they did. I don't want to blow our own trumpet, but compared to America, we're pretty good. And I still, as bad as Farage is, I'd rather have Farage than Trump. Anyway, I'm going to have to go with the computer now, so I'm going to take you with. Here's an article from May, 26th of May this year. MOD increases. This is from a website called Forces Watch. And it's a campaign website against recruiting of innocent people, recruiting of youngsters that don't know any better into the military. MOD increases targeting of 16-year-olds, show figures released today. Recruitment of minors continues to fall, but 16-year-olds now outnumber 17-year-old recruits. More than 1 in 5 Army recruits are too young to be deployed. The Ministry of Defence has released figures today showing that 1,790 minors were enlisted. Minors were so under 18-year-olds. In the financial year to March 2016, accounting for 22% of the Army's total enlisted intake for the same period. So there's a petition Facebook page that of stop recruitment of 16-year-olds into the UK Armed Forces, and I thought if we wanted to do something that would actually not only prevent suicides of veterans, but would actually prevent people getting killed at the hands of others as well as at their own hands. We should look into that. So I'm going to put in a link to stop recruitment of 16-year-olds into the UK Armed Forces, and a link to their petition that is on 38 Degrees. I thought that might be something useful. That's why I decided to start up again. I thought actually that's something genuinely useful that can be done, is stop people joining the military in the first place. Before I go though, let me read you. Oh, it's gone. Where's it gone? Oh yeah, here we go. An article by Alan West. This is what I'm objecting to. This is what I'm not prepared to be a part of. Alan West. I was given a push-up challenge, then things got real. Real capital letters. A few weeks back I had a chance to visit the team at Honour, Courage, Commitment. The fact they call the bloody charity Honour, Courage, Commitment gets you off straight away, isn't it? Here in Dallas, and learn more about their 22 Kill program. The mission of 22 Kill is to advocate for and support veterans in order to stop the terrible tragedy of veteran suicides by fetishising the military. The figure of 22 veteran suicides per day is widely quoted. The number may even be higher, but it's lower. The most recent statistic was 20 a day. I mean, it's not a lot lower, but it is actually lower. Anyway, it's really interesting. I know it's counterintuitive that would actually incentivise the military, but believe me, it does. Don't believe me, that was a slip of the tongue. It's a very unskeptical thing to say. If somebody is saying, "Oh, I am ardently a skeptic," and they say, "Believe me," no, don't believe me. It is my theory that that is what's happening, and what I kind of meant was, believe me, it's credible, not believe me, it's true. Because bear in mind, a lot of teenagers have suicidal thoughts that they can't talk about, and then that's not even taken seriously. I remember being a teenager and saying that I was depressed, and people saying, "No, you're not depressed. You don't know what depression is." There's always this thing of invalidating teenagers' emotions. Anyway, 1 in 2 veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars say they know a fellow service person who attempted or committed suicide, according to a Washington Post report. Right, this is the sentence that I really had problems with. But there is one thing that cannot be debated. Our veterans deserve our respect. I could debate that. Our thanks. For what? They were part of an invasionary force of a country that wasn't a threat to ourselves, and they killed people for oil, or maybe they didn't, and they put their lives on the line unnecessarily. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming them. I feel they were exploited, but I'm not going to thank them for it either. And our assistance in building healthy and productive lives off the battlefield. That's why I now wear the black 22 kill trigger finger ring on my right index finger in support of 22 kill. Of course, I also took part in the push-up challenge. You're supposed to do 22, well, you can see how I did in the video. I don't know how you failed. Okay. According to their website, this isn't on 22 Kills website, by the way. 22 Kills is a global movement created by veterans with a mission to honour those who served and serve. Raise awareness to veteran suicide prevention. Recruit veteran advocates, also known as battle buddies. Educate public about current veteran topics. Empower veterans through programs that honour Courage Commitment Inc., a non-profit focused on education, mentorship and community service. Veteran advocates, also known as battle buddies, wear the 22 kill honour ring. TM! TM! It says TM. So it's trademarks. You can't... remember, you can't buy honour rings from anyone else. It's a charity. You can't buy honour rings from anyone else. You have to get them. It's not a charity, it's a non-profit. So they branded honour ring. Anyway, a matte black band worn on the right index finger, symbolising the trigger finger. I hope you'll join me in supporting 22 Kill. Get your ring here. It's supposed to be supporting veterans that might be suicidal, but actually it's encouraging more veterans. The leading cause of being a veteran is joining the military. Don't join the military. So sign the petition to get the age of recruitment raised to 18, as it is in the rest of Europe. Just a little aside with regards to recruiting 16-year-olds into the military. You can't vote until you're 18, so you have no say in which government will be sending you to fight. Okay, you've already signed your contract. You only have 6 months to pull out of that contract before you're in it for the long haul, which is 4 to 6 years. And you're not allowed to vote yet. And another thing that's really ironic is you can't buy violent video games. Call of Duty is an 18. You're not allowed to buy Call of Duty because it's violent, but you're allowed to enlist in the military. Support calm if you think that all suicides matter. Or support Samaritans if you are concerned that by saying I support calm that I'm being particularly, I guess, androcentric would be the word. But I do think there's a special, I think there is a special crisis for males. Not an epidemic. And sometimes I see the word, oh, this is a silent epidemic. The press always make these out to be epidemics. No, male suicide rate has been 3 or 4 times higher than the suicide rate for women since the 1980s. It's not suddenly spiked. It's risen gradually, but all suicides have risen gradually. But it's not an epidemic. But it could be brought down, and it could be brought down by changing the way we think about men and masculinity, and I think calm is about that. So I think there is reason. Perhaps next time I'm going to look at an article which is making a fair criticism of calm and deal with that. But I am 80% on board with calm. I mean, I'm not, I'm 80% on board with what their aims are. I support their aims. I might be a little bit critical of their narrative, a little bit. Bearing in mind, it's pointless, meaningless, and doesn't represent anything. I might as well do my press ups, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Right. Kids, don't join the military. Just don't join the military. And stay calm. So remember, this is just one blind man reporting on the nature of elephants. Other opinions are available, and the best awareness raiser of all is your own curiosity. I should point out, I'm not actually blind. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphorical reference to a story. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Blind Men and an Elephant. Right, cheerio.